You know that feeling when you see a photo of yourself from a recent event, maybe a birthday dinner, a family gathering, something you actually dressed up for, and something about it just looks off? Not wrong exactly, but heavier than you felt that day, more tired than you actually were, and you find yourself thinking, was it the lighting? Was it the angle? What is it? A lot of the time, it's not the photo, it's not the lighting, it's the color you were wearing near your face. Now, before we get into this, I want to say something clearly. This is not about looking younger. That's not what we're doing here. What we're doing is making sure the colors you're already wearing are actually working for you, for the skin you have right now in your 60s and your 70s, instead of quietly working against you. Because the difference between those two things is more significant than most of us realize. Here's the one idea I want you to hold on to through this entire video, because it connects everything we're about to cover. After 60, colors that absorb light work against you. Colors that reflect warmth back toward your face work for you. That's the whole system. Everything we're covering today is a variation of that one principle. We're going through 7 colors that absorb, and the exact swap for each one that reflects. Some of these will feel obvious once I say them out loud. A couple of them will genuinely stop you, especially if you've been wearing them for years and getting compliments along the way. So let's start with the one that surprises people the most. Number 1. Ash gray is everywhere in women's fashion, and I understand completely why we reach for it. It feels sophisticated, it feels like a neutral, it feels like it goes with everything without having to try too hard. And honestly, in many contexts, it does. But there's a specific thing that happens when it lives near your face, and once you understand it, you'll start to see it immediately. Ash gray has cool, blue-leaning undertones, and rather than adding any warmth or brightness to what's next to it, it does the opposite. It draws the warmth out. After 60, our skin naturally has less density than it did at 40. It's softer, it's lighter, and it has less of that built-in contrast it once had. When you place ash gray right next to that skin, you're essentially putting 2 cool, light-absorbing things side by side and watching them cancel each other out. The face ends up looking more tired than it is, more shadowed, and not because anything is wrong with you, because the color has nothing warm to give. Now here's where things start to change. The swap is warm silver, or champagne, or a soft pewter with golden or honey undertones. Same color family as gray, but a completely different result because these shades have luminosity in them. They reflect light back toward your face rather than sitting there and absorbing it. Here's something practical you can try this week, just as a test, not a commitment to anything. Take an ash gray piece from your wardrobe and hold it near your face in natural daylight, somewhere close to a window. Then find something in warm ivory or champagne and do the same. Look at what happens in the area under your eyes, along your jaw, around your mouth. The difference isn't always dramatic, but it is usually there, and it's usually visible within a few seconds. Once you start noticing it, it becomes very hard to unsee. One thing I want to say clearly, because it matters, this doesn't mean you have to remove ash gray from your wardrobe entirely. Move it further from your face, wear it as trousers or as a bag, or layered under a jacket in a warmer tone. That single adjustment, just keeping it away from your neckline and face, is often all it takes. Color number 2. Next is white, and more specifically, optical white, the kind you see in crisp button-down shirts and structured white blouses that have that almost bluish-white brightness to them. Here's what's happening with optical white near the face. It's designed for maximum contrast, and it delivers it, but the contrast it creates isn't always flattering. When optical white sits next to your skin, it essentially becomes the loudest thing in the frame. Every other element gets red in comparison to that starkness. Fine lines become more visible. Any unevenness in skin tone gets amplified. The face, instead of being the focal point, ends up competing with the fabric next to it. And this is where most people make the wrong move. They try to solve the optical white problem by avoiding white altogether. But you don't have to give up white. You just need a different version of it. Warm ivory, soft cream, off-white with a slight peach or golden undertone. What these shades do is collaborate with your skin rather than compete with it. The transition between your face and your neckline softens. Everything reads as more balanced and more rested. I won't tell you it's a dramatic transformation. That would be overselling it. But it is a consistently noticeable one, especially in photographs, which is where most of us see ourselves most clearly these days. Now, I want to address something I hear regularly. But cream washes me out, I've tried it. If that's been your experience, I want to ask, which cream? Because there is a flat, cool cream that absolutely does wash you out. It has no warmth in it, and it behaves almost identically to ash gray in what it does to the face. That's the wrong version. The cream that works is warm ivory, something with even a whisper of peach or gold underneath it. For women with deeper complexions, this warm ivory reads as rich and luminous. For women with lighter or pinker skin tones, it softens everything beautifully. It's genuinely worth trying before you write off the whole color family based on the version that didn't work. Now, pastels are where the advice gets really muddled, because you'll hear two completely opposite things about them, and both of them miss the actual point. Aging color number 3, faded or washed out pastels. Swap dusty, muted tones in the same color family. You'll hear some people say women over 60 shouldn't wear pale colors at all, not strong enough, not present enough. And then you'll hear others say pastels are soft and beautiful and perfect for mature women. Both of those positions are missing something important. The problem isn't pastel. The problem is faded pastel. Colors that look like they've been through the wash too many times. A bleached out lavender. A pale pink with no body to it. These shades don't have enough pigment to hold their ground near your face. They don't create contrast. They don't add warmth. They just disappear. And they often take some of your presence with them. You end up looking washed out. And because the color itself is so quiet, there's no focal point anywhere in the look. The swap here isn't going darker, it's going dustier. Dusty rose, dusty lilac, muted sage, soft terracotta. These colors still have that softness, that gentleness, but they have enough pigment to actually be present. They hold their ground, and they have something that faded pastels completely lack: intentionality. When you walk into a room in dusty rose or muted sage, it reads as a deliberate, sophisticated color choice. When you walk in wearing a washed-out version of the same shade, it reads as something that used to be a color. There's also a practical note worth making here. These dusty, muted tones are precisely where higher-end fashion has been landing consistently for the past several seasons. Wearing them well means your wardrobe reads current and considered, without chasing trends, without trying too hard. If you're finding this useful and it's shifting how you're thinking about your wardrobe, please hit the like button. It genuinely helps this video reach other women who need exactly this kind of conversation. And if you're not subscribed yet, this is what we do here every week on Ageless Style. Hit subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. We're halfway through, and I want to stay with me for the second half, because the next one is the one that tends to catch people most off guard. It's not black, it's not white, it's not gray. It's a color most of us think of as completely harmless. Aging color number 4, gray-green or muddy khaki. Swap rich warm olive or deep forest green. This is the one that surprises people most in styling conversations, because olive and khaki feel like safe, neutral, reliable wardrobe staples. And some versions of them genuinely are. But there's a specific version that consistently works against mature skin, and it's unfortunately the most common one you'll find on racks. Gray-green, muddy khaki, olive with a blue or gray undertone rather than a warm or golden one. This version of olive behaves almost exactly like ash gray at the face level. It has no warmth to give. It sits there and neutralizes everything around it. Women often sense something is wrong with a piece but can't identify what it is. They'll say the fit is fine, the quality is good, but every time they put it on, something just feels flat. Very often, the culprit is this exact undertone issue. The color is close enough to the right thing that it feels like it should work, but the undertone is pulling in entirely the wrong direction. Here's where things start to change. and the change is significant. Rich warm olive, the kind with golden, honey, or warm brown undertones, behaves completely differently at the face. It adds warmth rather than draining it. It works with the natural tones in your skin rather than neutralizing them. When you find the right version of it, it genuinely feels like the color was made for you. Deep forest green and rich emerald work differently again, but equally well. These shades create face-framing contrast. They're different enough from your skin tone that they draw the eye upward toward your face, which is exactly what a well-chosen color near the face is supposed to do. And deep green is one of the rare colors that works beautifully across a genuinely wide range of skin tones. Deeper complexions, lighter complexions, olive complexions. This is a color family that tends to flatter broadly rather than narrowly. Practical note, the easiest way to distinguish warm olive from muddy olive when you're shopping is to look for undertone. If it reads as greenish gray, put it back. If it reads as greenish gold or brownish green, that's the one worth trying. Aging color number 5. Beige is an interesting case because the reason it doesn't work isn't that it's a bad color. It's that the wrong version of it makes you invisible. We reach for beige because it's elegant, it's quiet, it's grown up, it doesn't compete with anything, and all of that is true. The problem is that doesn't compete with anything can go too far. And when your clothing color sits too close to your natural skin tone, the result is that there's no contrast anywhere to define your face, your neckline, your collarbone. Everything merges. You're present, but you're not there in the way you could be. This is the most common version of invisibility in mature women's wardrobes, and it's genuinely the most fixable. The swap is camel or cognac, and both of these are still neutrals. That's the important thing. We're not moving into bold or statement territory here. Camel and cognac are sophisticated, versatile, completely wearable neutrals, but they have enough depth and warmth to actually differentiate from your skin. They create just enough contrast to make your face the focal point of the whole look, which is where the eye is supposed to land. Camel works particularly well for lighter and medium skin tones. Cognac, which has more reddish-brown warmth, is especially beautiful on deeper or olive complexions. Both photograph well in natural and artificial light, which matters more than we sometimes give it credit for. And here's the simple, practical version of this advice. If you have beige pieces you genuinely love, you don't have to let them go. Just keep them further from your face. Use them as trousers, a skirt, wide-leg pants, and replace that near-face layer with camel or cognac. Same neutral palette. Completely different result. Here's where things get interesting because this next one doesn't immediately feel like a problem. It's warm, it's rich. It feels like exactly the kind of color we should be wearing. And for most women, one version of it absolutely is. And another version of it quietly works against you in a way that's worth understanding. Aging color number 6, very dark brown. Near the face swap, deep burgundy or rich wine. Dark brown feels warm, and in isolation, as a color, it is. So it takes a moment to understand why it doesn't always work near the face after 60. Here's what's happening. Dark brown is dense, it's heavy, and when it sits near the face, what it tends to do is pull the eye downward rather than upward. It casts a slight shadow effect, not dramatically, not in a way you can always articulate, but in a way that adds a sense of weight to the lower face and neck area that isn't flattering. It doesn't have the kind of luminosity that bounces light back toward your features. Instead, it sits there and absorbs. The swap is moving into the red-brown family, deep burgundy, rich wine, dark mulberry. What these shades have that dark brown doesn't is warmth with luminosity. There's something in the red-brown spectrum, that slight richness, that depth, that gives back to the face rather than just sitting against it. When deep burgundy is near your face, it warms your complexion. It lifts the look upward. It makes your features the focal point rather than fading into heaviness. There's also a practical camera note worth mentioning here because I know many of you are thinking about how you look in family photos, at events, in videos. Deep burgundy and wine are consistently among the most flattering colors on camera for women in their 60s and 70s. They translate well in both natural and artificial light. They create warmth and presence whether you're at a dinner table or in a holiday photo in a living room. This isn't a minor thing. It's one of those colors that consistently makes women say after the fact, "That's the photo I actually liked of myself." And now we're at the last one, which is also honestly the most empowering one, because this isn't just about stopping something that ages you. This is about actively choosing something that commands attention in the best possible way. Aging color number 7, overly saturated bright colors. Near the face swap, jewel tones, sapphire, amethyst, deep teal, emerald, plum. There's an important distinction that most of us were never taught, and it makes a real difference here. The difference between bright colors and rich colors. Electric brights, vivid fuchsia, neon yellow, intensity dialed up orange, are loud. They draw enormous attention to themselves, and that attention comes at a cost. The color competes with your face rather than framing it. On mature skin specifically, very high saturation brights can highlight texture and create a kind of harsh visual tension that reads as chaotic rather than confident. The eye goes to the clothing first, your face, your expression, your presence. All of that becomes secondary. Jewel tones work on a completely different level, and this is the distinction that matters. Deep sapphire, rich amethyst, dark teal, emerald, deep plum. These are strong colors. They're not muted, they're not quiet, but they have depth in them, and that depth changes everything. They're not electric, they're present. And when worn near the face, they create exactly the kind of warm, upward contrast that makes your whole look feel authoritative and intentional. I want to be honest here because skin tone matters in this color family more than in almost any other. Jewel tones don't perform identically across every complexion. Deep sapphire is particularly luminous on deeper skin tones. It creates a richness and glow that's genuinely striking. On fairer or cooler complexions, deep teal or plum may feel more natural than a full-depth navy sapphire. On medium or olive complexions, emerald tends to be the most universally effortless entry point into this family. It's worth experimenting rather than assuming one version of the family is the one for you. What I'll say about all of them is this. If you've been feeling like your wardrobe has lost some of the presence it used to carry, that sense of walking into a room and just feeling put together, jewel tones are very likely the color family that brings that back. Not by making you look younger, by making you look more fully, clearly like yourself. So here's where we've landed. And I want to bring it back to the one idea I mentioned right at the beginning, because I think it's worth sitting with for a moment. After 60, colors that absorb light quietly work against you. Colors that reflect warmth back toward your face work for you. That's not a complicated idea, but it is a genuinely useful one, because it gives you a way to evaluate any color in any store at any time, without needing a stylist or a color wheel or a set of rules to memorize. You don't need to start over. You don't need to throw anything out. The most effective place to apply any of this is the layer closest to your face. A top, a blouse, a scarf, a jacket lapel, the inner layer under something. Start there. One swap, see what you notice, and one more thing I want to say because I think it's important. You will still reach for some of these colors. That's normal. This isn't a list of rules, and it's not meant to be. Think of it as a lens. Once you have it, you just start seeing things slightly differently. And over time, the choices you make naturally start shifting. That's how a wardrobe actually changes in real life. Not all at once, gradually, intentionally, on your own terms. Before you go, I'm genuinely curious which of these 7 surprised you the most. Drop it in the comments. I read every single one, and honestly, your answers shape what I cover next. So it's a real question, not just a prompt. If you want to take this further, I've put together a video on the 5 specific wardrobe pieces that anchor these colors in real everyday life. Not a mood board, not a theory. The actual pieces that pull a wardrobe together in your 60s and beyond. It's linked right here. I'll see you there.